government. And it's very likely that that will shape all of our activities and funding in future years, particularly as we come up to the next comprehensive spending review in November, and the debate around whether or not we'll be able to set 3-year budgets for some of our activities. But, you know, in terms of a highlight, the programme for government areas that sit within my responsibility are the Young Person's Guarantee, the Wales Union Learning Fund, green representatives with unions, shared apprenticeships, and disability employment champions. So as you can see, there is a range of activity that I have in, you know, that I'm working with in order to deploy, that is seen as quite fundamental under the programme for government commitments. Can I have the next slide, please? The aim of today really is to start to identify barriers and improving access to good work for young people. I guess we're at the start of our journey in terms of a young person's guarantee, and we're at that point where we can take the opportunity to draw in views and thoughts, and stakeholders can shape and influence our thoughts and ideas as we move forward. And, you know, I think we don't know what we don't know. It's a very strange time coming out of the COVID restrictions. Young people particularly are disadvantaged in the labour market. But we also have a lot of provision that's already out there across a range of disciplines. And the last thing we want to do is to make plans and proposals to develop something new when there's already mechanisms in play, or we actually duplicate provision that's on the ground. So events such as these are wonderful for us to understand what's happening locally, what the local issues are, what practitioners are facing in terms of difficulties, and what really people are saying to us could work, should work, and we should be exploring. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about this Young Person's Guarantee, which many of you will know has now been launched by our Minister. And I've sent a link to the ministerial statement that launched the Young Person's Guarantee. But you know, the Young Person's Guarantee is not a new thing. It's been operating in Scotland for some time. The European Union have a Young Person's Guarantee, narrower than our definition, of course. And Greater Manchester have had a youth guarantee in operation successfully for some time. But I guess, you know, the face of the guarantee, the commitment is an offer of support to help people find work, to help people into education opportunities and training opportunities, and to help them set up in terms of self-employment. And we are using the sort of terms and philosophy about collaboration and partnership working to avoid a lost generation, and to help people to change their story and to find good career pathways at the very early part of their life. I think the Minister has reiterated in his statement, and it'll be well worth me just touching on a few key points, that we really need to ensure that nobody is left behind as a result of the pandemic. We need to look at the skills and experience that individuals need to gain, whether that be in any of the disciplines that I've just talked about. But we need to ensure that we're looking at sustained, good quality employment opportunities for this group. We're targeting primarily those that are outside of the labour market, those that would traditionally be called economically inactive or NEETs. We believe there's quite a good throughput for most of young people into programmes such as HE or apprenticeships. But we really do believe that we need more intensity on some of those groups that are furthest away from the labour market, and those that are disadvantaged generally through protected characteristics in terms of gaining access to labour market opportunities. I think we've already been very clear that we intend to use the Careers Wales Work in Wales service as the single point of access for the Youth Guarantee. We want to ensure that people have one simple route to access all the information and programs that are available, and that they also have access to independent and impartial careers advice and support. We have looked at developing an assessment to barriers tool that we will be utilising on the Youth Guarantee, and we are calling for people to ensure that their provision is linked to the Work in Wales system, that all courses are shown in the Work in Wales Courses in Wales programme, and that local careers advisors are aware of the types of support that is available within their area. Now, we know we've got some critical drivers, Jobs Growth Wales, traineeships, apprenticeships, Big Ideas Wales, Kickstart from DWP, Restart from DWP, the Work in Health programme, the Out of Work service and the In Work service. They are our major interventions that we are focusing on in terms of moving forward and trying to utilise this year to help people as best we can, particularly over that furlough period. But we do need a renewed focus on working together to coordinate opportunities more locally. So the Minister has said we're at the start of our journey, and what he wants to do is to have a national conversation with young people. That will be done, through a structured approach, obtaining the voice of young people, putting the young people at the heart of our developments in order to understand what their aspirations are, what gaps they think are in our landscape, and what improvements that we need to make. We will also be piloting a brand new job matching service through Work in Wales. I think one of the key concerns is the availability of young people to support jobs and vice versa. And there are many different ways you can find a job, but we are trying to simplify that type of approach for our Youth Guarantee group through a more formal structure of a job matching approach. And I think lastly, I just want to reiterate that people and businesses across Wales are facing one of the most difficult years in peacetime. And the Minister for the Economy has made the Youth Guarantee an absolute priority for him in terms of his portfolio. And he wants to support individuals and businesses to build a fairer and greener and more prosperous Wales in this space. Can I have the next slide, please? I think that gives you a little bit of an idea of where we've started to in terms of the young persons guarantee and our plans for the future. And now I'd love to get your input and opportunity to shape the direction of travel, highlighting the key risks and the key opportunities for us. So I will ask you to have a little chat on your table. I think we have until about 1:55 to do this, and then we will have to go back into the workshop sessions. So for me, I guess I will be giving you a little bit of a prompter at about 1:30 to ensure that you're well into the second question. And then I think I will start just after 1:30, about 1:45, to ask you to bring together 3 points from each of your tables in order for me to feed that back into the plenary discussion. You also will have in your pack a comment sheet to provide your ideas forward directly to us, and sometimes we like to reflect and put a bit more detail behind our thoughts, and also use the chat bar, please. So if I can have the next slide, please. 2 questions. And the first question is about the guarantee. Supporting young people into employment or training, how are we going to do that, and what more could we do? And can I have the next question, please, so we can just run through the two? A rewarding and healthy learning and working environment. What does this look like? And what do young people want, and how do we get there? I think it would be really helpful if the tech technician could just pop those two questions in the sort of chat bar. And what I'm going to ask you to do now is to talk about that within your groups. I'll give you a bit of a signal just before past, so you should be well into your second question. And then at about 35 minutes past 40 minutes past 1, we'll start to try and gather our thoughts together and our points ready to go back into the main forum. Over to discussing this within your tables, and be really helpful if my tech person could come in and help on this point.
Hello, Sam. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close down the presentation view, and everyone should return to the table view. If you're sat around the table, there's someone else on your table, you'll be able to turn your camera and mic on to open up a discussion with them over video. If you'd like to join the table, any other table, so there's more people to talk to, you can double click on the table with an empty seat and you'll be able to join that table and start a conversation with those people. If you have any questions, I'm in the participants panel under technical support, and you can send me a direct message. Okay, I'll talk to everyone on the other side.
Hello, everyone. So I think Nadine is going to join me, and we're going now to feedback some of the points that we've discussed in our workshops. I think we are going back to the main event at about 2:15. Is that right? Is that right? 2:15 is the tech person. 2:15. We're going back into the main event. We'll be dragged into the main event then, won't we?
Can you hear me, Sam?
Yeah.
Yes. We're going to be, before then, we're going to move to the back to the afternoon plenary, and then we can start doing feedback from each workshop facilitator, okay?
Okay. Can I just check, can everybody put their cameras on at this point, or is it just me and Nadine?
I'm able to, if someone wants to join the presentation, they should see a raise hand button at the bottom panel next to their cam, and then they'll be able, what I can do, if they click that raise hand button, it makes them highlight, so I can then give them speakers rights so they can join the presentation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll run through my 3 quickly. Nadine will run through her 3 quickly, and then we'll have a raised hand sort of, this is the one I want to, I think you're right on that one, or I'd like to put this point forward. All of it will be collated, of course, and will be in the conference meeting note, but for the feedback into the plenary session, want to make sure that your views are fully represented. So for me, there were some key points out of the group. It was an amazing discussion, actually, and we need to do more of it. I think there was something around the ability to be able to allow young people to test a work experience opportunity that is valid, that is fairly high quality, that is, enabling them to gain that experience, but also to gain a bit of kudos, bit of credibility, and to think about the next steps. So it's particularly off the back of Kickstart, which seems to be a really good working model, and I think that I heard that very clearly coming through the work that we've done. The other one, I guess, is around how we make a guarantee real, and how we link to some of the work that's already been done through the youth engagement and progression framework. So that was a key one for me, because that locks all partners into place. And the third one, I think, is about how we have much more of a national conversation with public sector. They are possibly an area that can support this group value and empower them. They have a sort of civil duty. They can be a safe haven for opportunities. So there's something around a policy discussion, a national conversation, and that was felt to be really powerful, and we should be doing that as next steps. So they're my three. Nadine.
There we go. Managed to work the microphone. Yeah, that really interesting discussion as well, and some really good tips and insights actually. And something that came out when we're thinking about what a guarantee, you know, how we make it work, make it sort of holistic, is thinking about that some of the barriers are actually could be approached by working with the family, not just with the young person, not seeing the young person in isolation. It's that wider consideration of circumstances and challenges and what it might take to help the person progress and overcome some of those barriers. So that was quite an interesting point actually, thinking wider than just the young person. We also talked about that need to raise aspirations for young people very much, and understanding some of these really entrenched and deep-rooted issues that might have existed in communities for issues, and how do we really get a really positive message into some of these communities and areas. We talked about the support is really important, but we still need practical interventions and being able to actually do something as well as the support and advice. Well, again, it came up very much about work experience, work taste as some sort of passport, but the importance of being able to pay young people whilst they're doing that, because that will be something young people are going to be interested and engaged with. And also about the perception of some of the routes that we have, some of these pathways that we sort of tend to think are the norm: school, college, university, degree, and how we can help people rethink that, employers as well. And there we were thinking particularly on the value of apprenticeships, but the different models that exist, things like shared apprenticeships where you actually experience working with different employers, and the higher level, degree level apprenticeships as well. I don't, perhaps not enough is really known about these other models and ways of, you can build up to your degree but doing it in a different way. I think for me, those are the key points, but I would invite anybody who would want to add to that. Try and raise your hand and see if we can
summarize them again. Family linked solutions.
Yeah, family.
A real offer. I heard. What was that one? A real offer.
Practical interventions. So the support and the advice is important, but it also, we still need practical programs.
Okay.
And
perception of programs.
Yeah,
we could do a lot more around that.
Yeah,
perception and promotion.
Options, how many options there really are to progress.
Okay, lovely. Hands, please. Any other thoughts? Any other comments? Firstly, if you'd like something to go forward into that plenary session, with general observations as well. I'm looking for hands now. Where's the hand? Oh, Tim, you've got your hand up.
Yes, just to reiterate the point I made around the we've kind of lost a lot of it now, but the 14 to 19 local area network worked at one where you had further education institutions, schools, local authorities, Careers Wales, all relevant partners offering good quality placements, which were actually overseen by a quality assurance individual in colleges and schools in particular, but also ensuring that a young person is making the right choice in that, which is where the learning coaches came in. And what I mean about that is, for example, the higher achieving academically also being given the option to attend vocational courses, because that's their leaning and perhaps calling. where some schools, without that independent intervention of a learning coach, might have preferred to have kept hold of that young person to do A-levels, which might be actually the right route for them. So it's just having that, all of those opportunities in the mix, really, and ensuring that they're coordinated as well.
It's at the transition point, isn't it? It's that making sure that at all the transition points they are aware of their options. But I hear what you say on that one transition point, if I'm honest. There's an awful lot of competition, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it distorts options, I think, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, oh, Melissa?
Yeah, it was just building on Tim and Nadine's point around, I suppose, changing that narrative that, you know, your degree and masters is a better person or a better employee or candidate if you've got those, but actually good work is good work, and however you get to it, provided it's a reputable way and you take advantage of all those opportunities, I think we should spend a bit more time on that, because a really good apprenticeship is just on par with having a degree. And actually that's not just to the young people, that is also to employers. And I think the example I used was, you can see now if you complete if you see a person specification, a lot more I often see that people ask for a degree or masters or equivalent experience, and I think we really do need to get used to considering experience, not just the qualification on the paper. And there'll be lots of really good role models that can be highlighted of people who haven't gone the educational route but are captains of industry, have got fantastic businesses, and I suppose, dare I say it to a certain extent, influencers and people like that who have managed to make a good career. So there are other options, but the important side of it is good work, because good work means good health and all the other stuff.
Can I just mention quickly as well, unless it has been already, is the role of the regional skills partnerships, and particularly labour market intelligence, to ensure that that is a driver for all this as well. So we don't want young people going through a learning pathway and then ending up with nothing at the end. It's important that we make those connections with the RSPs as well.
Yeah, you're right, and how that feeds through to the careers advice. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, that's another part linked to our team. So we do pick that up. We could have a bit of a debate about freedom of choice and you know, what's good for an individual might not necessarily be high tech type of industries. But yeah, you are right. You know, and I think the debate on the voluntary sector is an interesting one, and the environmental work too. But we do need to have an idea of the shape of where the jobs are in the future for the fiscal drivers and the sheer ability to be able to plan for your future. I agree. Anything else? No. Well, we've got a lot from that session, a lot more than the points to feedback. I guess you've got a little bit of time before we dragged back into the main session now. If you want to have a little coffee and everything, we can turn our cameras and mics off, and I'll be hovering around in the event when the event starts again at 2:15. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to fill in your forms and send it back so we can have a full record of your thoughts. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.